Today we're going to be talking about the gentrification of Houston, Texas. In order to have a really good conversation, we have to agree upon what is gentrification. It's the process of removing poor people and replacing them with a wealthier class people, improving the housing, attracting new businesses, and typically, as I said, moving out the people who are currently living there. There are many types of gentrification. One of the biggest ones right now being used is climate change gentrification, where there are being buildings built to resist climate change. In areas like, for example, where Hurricane Katrina occurred, they're now starting to rebuild buildings that are going to be able to survive in issues like hurricanes, and that's being done mainly in poor areas, and they're being displaced. Another tool that's used in gentrification is rising costs of insurance, and that's really important also when you get to places that have been destroyed, like Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. There's a race gap gentrification, a race-based gentrification, say, and that's fairly simple. In race-based gentrifications, there's something called the rent gap theory, where it becomes cheaper to have a house go down or have a building degenerate and get the people out, and it's not worth it to even collect the rent. There's something called eminent domain, where the government itself comes in and gives people what they call fair value for the land. Another thing that happens in gentrification is service reductions. Education, health standards, things of that nature, police, they stop coming. So what happens also is that the appraisal fees start to drop, so it becomes a lot cheaper for people to come in and buy the residence of people who've been moved out. Recently, I shouldn't say recently, transit-oriented gentrification, when highways are put into areas and transit locations are put into areas, they're put into areas and they allow people who have the higher income have access to the stations where these light rail systems or subway systems are put in, and therefore people are displaced as transit-oriented gentrification grows. The term gentrification was coined by a lady named Ruth Glass in London in 1964. And there are many tools that were used other than what I just mentioned. Urban renewal, tax abatements are really big in the United States, whereas they will have, a municipality will have a construction company build high value real estate and not charge them for 10-15 years taxes just to get the people into the town. There is restrictive covenants, which was used years ago, which said in the lease that you're not allowed to rent or sell this place to someone of a certain, let's say, ethnic or race. If you look at your not your lease, but if you look at your title of your house, you might even find some things in there, if it's old enough, that refer to restrictive covenants. Although they're not law, they might still be there. So it's interesting to take a look. Redlining was something that was used back by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, where what they did was, it was not beneficial for companies to invest, or they couldn't even get insurance in building places in neighborhoods that were redlined. As far as Houston is concerned, it was founded in 1836, and first there was about 49% of the population was slaves when Houston was small. When the Mexican Civil War came, the first one in 1867, there became a heavy Mexican migration to Houston. Houston always had the highest population of blacks in Texas. When the Houston Ship Canal came, jobs flourished. And then at that time, that was the beginning of the first Great Migration. A lot more blacks moved to Houston. And around the same time was the second Mexican Revolution, where more Mexicans came to Houston. World War II brought tremendous job opportunities to Houston, and people came from all over the country. In 1940, the rural blacks that lived in the outskirts of Texas began to come to live in Houston because of the shipyards and its value. In the 1950s, the GI Bill was passed, and the black soldiers really weren't able to take advantage of this and buy homes, and that is a legacy that lives with us today. The National Highway Act in 1956 came along, and not as much in Houston, but in other places, it totally destroyed neighborhoods. Let's talk a little about now what's going on in Houston as far as gentrification is concerned. Sunnyside, South Park are quickly becoming gentrified. They're only 15 minutes from downtown, a prime location for people to live. There are signs that were put up there that says, "We buy ugly homes." The second ward in Houston is a Hispanic ward, and there's a move now there to gentrify that. There's also the move in Houston, as I mentioned before, for light rail gentrification. So they're building a lot of rail systems out there. The East River Project in Houston is an area that was built for mixed development, which is being gentrified. Keep in mind, one of the things that the gentrifiers look for is a way to get into the city quickly. And there's a concept called the 15-minute city. So the concept there is basically you should be able to get to wherever you want in 15 minutes. And that's being done in Houston pretty wildly. The Popsicle Factory was built. It's a 20,000 square foot factory in the second ward, which displaced a lot of people. The third ward in Houston, the U.S. Census said the black population has dropped from 71% to 45%. Actually, the white population has grown almost close to 200% in the third ward. Healthcare, the closing of Riverside Hospital in 2015 has had a tremendous effect on Houston. The Fifth Ward is slowly becoming gentrified. So Houston is a place that is not really at the top of the mind when people think of gentrification, but it's getting gentrified slowly but surely. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe and like, and have a good day.